Good afternoon and welcome to Just Jocelyn. I'm so glad that you could join us. We have a two-part show again today, and it's on the right to know. Yes, you can all roll your eyeballs, you can sigh, here she goes again, they're back. Yes, we pro se litigants are not going to take it anymore. We haven't been taking it, and we're not going to take it anymore. When our public servants, not officials, servants, step on our toes, break the law, insult us, threaten us, throw the book at us, lie to the courts, etc., 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 we're done. And when there are virtually no lawyers in this state that are true constitutional lawyers willing to fight for the right of the people that give every branch of government in this state and the federal government their authority, we're going to do it ourselves. We've got maxims of law, we have common law, we have foundational law, and we have the Constitution of New Hampshire, and to top it all off, the Constitution of the United States. And both those constitutions protect our rights, not theirs, ours. You need to understand this, people. We're not crazy, we're not nuts. Sit back. Look at what's going on in Nashua. Look at what's going on in Manchester. Look at what's going on in Concord. Look at what's going on in a local town, Amherst. They are not following the state constitution. And you have to say to these people, well, the RSA says, and by what authority did you make that RSA? Well, it's illegal law. Only the legislature can make law. And the legislature cannot give authority when they don't have the authority themselves. The same goes for the courts, all three branches of government. That's why we're here. We need to stand together, people. We need to educate ourselves. I just started this. I'll admit all day long I'm not the brightest bulb in the box. I don't know everything about this. But how come my case is at the Court of Appeals, First Court of Appeals in Boston, Massachusetts? We left the Supreme Court of New Hampshire. So did many other people. We're doing this ourselves. We need to educate ourselves and stop being bullied and lied to by our public servants whose salaries we pay. And that is the bottom line. And it's not for the greater good. So after that little rant, which you're all very much used to from Jocelyn, I want to welcome Miss Laurie Ortolano back again.
Thank you so much.
What a privilege to have you here to be explaining this to me and to my audience and to all of us, because until you came along, until I came along, Al Brandano, Daniel Richard, Paula Johnson, Wayne Saya, Regina Barnes. We have 11 pro se litigants that we know about right now in this state that are fighting for you, we the people. And we cannot be silenced. We have First Amendment rights to discuss this. And when we are blocked at every single solitary step that we take, enough is enough. And I think we're all at that point. And we're not going to give up. We're just going to ramp it up.
Well, it's been a really discouraging process to learn what I've learned about the courts and to go through something like this. My entry as a pro se litigant came really around January of 2021. I had a case represented by a lawyer that was filed in February of 2020. And that ran through to a trial that was represented by legal counsel in December of 2021. So I had coverage on this bigger assessing case, ended up doing pretty well. The final order in an appeal by the city is still up at the Supreme Court waiting to be ruled on legal fees.
And how long is that?
It's been up there for, about, a year. I did a brief, I'm going to say it's been up there for, I think about 8 or 10 months.
So, and this is important because some people will be like, well, what'd you expect? The courts are busy and, they have other things to do. Really? What?
It's frustrating to me because right to know issues are expedited issues.
Correct.
And so when you read the law, you're entitled to an expedited process because after all, you're trying to get records that mean something to you here and now.
In a timely fashion.
Right. Something you're looking into. If they say to you, we'll get to you in 2 or 3 years, that really doesn't meet the requirements of an expedited matter. And it seems to me when it goes up to the Supreme Court, it is no longer expedited when it goes up there. Now, it's not well expedited in the lower courts. The lower courts are having trouble processing these things, and I think it's because they are very overburdened. I mean, if there is one institution in this state that deserves a lot of our prayers, it is the legal judicial system, because I think it is a troubled institution. And it has a lot of weaknesses, a lot of blind sites, a lot of blind spots, and a lot of an absence of checks and balances. And,
But isn't that what it's supposed to be predicated on? Isn't that what our country is predicated on,
and so
our systems?
We people go to the courts for checks and balances on what we can adjudicate and redress as issues that are a matter of law. But the checks and balances within the system itself to monitor itself are not there.
No, we have people that are running on emotion and feelings.
Yes.
Hatred.
Yes.
In a system that is supposed to be factual and unemotional and without hatred. It's supposed to be in a court of law, and it seems like we're in the Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, I cannot believe how hostile my right to know cases have been treated by the city, and it blows my mind. They're like criminal cases, and it's disturbing to me. So this case that I brought before the city as a pro se litigant was filed August 14th of 2022.
Okay, 2 years ago.
Yep, and Judge Temple issued a ruling on it on June 24th of 2024.
Okay.
So virtually 2 years it took. And it had a lot of claims in it regarding wrongdoing out of the Economic Development Office. And I'm not certain if I explained in the last show, but the Economic Development Office before Mayor Donches took over was a part of community development. It was a part of an office that if you went to City Hall was an open office accessible to everybody.
Right.
You could walk in during normal business hours. You could access economic development. You could ask for records. You could, if the development officer was there, you could talk to him. When Mayor Donches took over, they moved
closed
that
it.
office next to his.
So in my simple mind, and I like to say I'm a translator because a lot of people are like, how do you know this? I don't know. I have to work on it and translate it. So an economic office. So this is for economic development in the city of Nashua, which benefits the taxpayers, which benefits the public.
Right.
And it is closed to the public or anybody wanting to know what's going on. Where are my $15 million going?
Right.
And why are my taxes going up? Oh, we're going to put a picture on the wall next to that bridge. I'm being a little facetious, but you see where I'm going, people. We have the right to know, where are your taxes going?
Right.
What are you spending it on? And you have to ask us.
Right.
So now he squirrels it away into a back room.
He puts it into a side office that has a locked door next to his with a keypad and no name tag. So if you go into City Hall and you walked around, you'd never know economic development was even there. And once I figured out where it was, and I knocked on the door repeatedly, I never had anyone answer the door. You have to go to the door next door, which is the mayor's office, and you have to go through the mayor's office to try and reach this guy, which I think is set up.
Is he on a salary?
Huge. Right now, he was making $145,000 a year. He's now he got promoted to the administrative services director, and a new economic development director was hired earlier in the year, and he's now making $160,000 a year. I think he's possibly the highest paid individual in the city.
For a economic office that is not accessible to the public, that the door is locked, that you cannot call, email, or reach, you have to go through the mayor's office, of which I'm not even going to go there in order to get there.
You can email it, but as far as calling in there, having a conversation, going to the door, finding it open, and it doesn't have open office hours ever. No listed open hours where you could go over there and see the economic development director. And you're right, it's all about developing properties and land in Nashua to grow the tax base, to reduce the tax burden, to add elements to the community that make it a more desirable place to live. So it has a public purpose, and we don't have public access. So I was very frustrated by that office. Originally, I did not really want to get involved. The barriers were the issue, and I dove into the barriers issue when people were asking me, you know, we think they're holding secret meetings. They're not letting us know. We're not able to participate. We don't like these barriers. Can you help us? And I said, oh, just came out of a huge assessing lawsuit. I'm like exhausted. I'll file a right to know, and I'll just try to find out where these meetings are. And the games began right there. They played games with me for 2.5 months.
So the fight was on?
Immediately.
Right out of the gate.
So by March and April, the fight was on those students. Actually, it started in December of 2021 when I was just coming out of my trial, that I was filing to get information. And they were stonewalling, and they weren't answering, and they were making up excuses, and they held several meetings behind closed doors, never posting them properly on the city website. And I was writing right to knows to say, who's on this committee? Where are the meetings? And they
What time? What day? Can I come to them?
First of all, you got to be careful because you can't ask questions because the right to know law doesn't allow you. So I'd say, if you have any document that tells me how committee members are picked or who is on the committee, please provide me with the document. If you have any document of any meetings, please provide me with the document. They came back several times. Nothing exists. Well, it turns out they had 2 meetings that they never posted on the
And they
calendar.
didn't post the minutes, I bet.
No minutes. Nothing got posted at all because the downtown. It involved the Downtown Improvement Committee, and the Downtown Improvement Committee ended up in the second meeting voting to approve the barrier plan developed by Tim Cummings.
So when you say the barriers, you mean those
concrete
red
brick
god-awful, fugly things in the middle of the road that slow down traffic so that for your eating pleasure, you can sit on the street, and while the people are sitting there, you can inhale the exhaust of all those cars.
It's, this summer was not a very good summer to eat outside overall. Extreme heat, some rain. The barrier plan expires this year. It was a 3-year ordinance. This year is 3 years. For putting down those red things. So now they're writing new legislation to make it permanent. So they're going to end up with parklets out there and 2 lanes only. This is coming to your Board of Aldermen table soon.
I'm feeling a conspiracy theory. It's called 15-minute cities. So
Yes.
you will not be allowed to bring your cars in there. You're going to have to walk and park on the outskirts.
Right.
Because they're just going to destroy that all. So how are you supposed to shop? How are you supposed to carry things back and forth?
I know. There's a parking issue down there. There's the parking spaces, the garages need work. There's a lot of money needed for renovating garages and potentially building new garages. The High Street garage was really given over to the High Street Flats building that was put up. They took over that garage because there was no parking for the High Street Flats. So they gave the public garage to the apartment complex, I think most of the floors, for their permanent parking. So we lost a general municipal downtown garage to an apartment complex.
Which is paid for by public taxes.
It is. Now they're collecting some money, and I don't know what the deal is. It's never quite the deal you think it is. And but there's issues with parking. There's a major need for Elm Street parking garage renovation. And we have a bond crisis in that we're on a bond diet because we've overbonded in the city. And now we need to be very careful about what we bond on a yearly basis.
But sorry to interrupt, but
That's okay.
I like to ask these questions because people ask me afterwards, and you didn't ask that. So who's the we, and what are they bonding if it's not the public, you and me, and the taxpayers?
The city needs us to bond, to invest. The city Board of Aldermen needs to approve bonds to do renovations or build new garages.
Which has to be approved by
the Board of Aldermen.
Okay.
They're not like
ultimately-
not the town. Not it's not like a town where you
Okay.
have warrant articles at a meeting.
Okay.
A city council gets to make those votes on their own. They hold public hearings where you can come out and speak. But they make that vote on their own, and then ultimately it is our tax dollars that is paying
So where's
for
the
that
check?
bond.
Oh, here's that phrase again. Where's the check and balances for we, the taxpayers?
Well, the checks and balances are the taxpayers have to be active citizens and coming out to these hearings. They have to come out and participate. And there's a gross shortage of people participating in these meetings. I feel primarily because the harshness of the elected body, the mayor, corporation council, the board of aldermen, to really stick it to the public, insult them, berate them, threaten them when you come to the microphone,
Insult them.
does not make it
Cut off your
inviting.
microphone. Oh, I'm sorry, your 35 seconds are done. Click. That's my microphone.
It's not inviting to go out there and participate. Who wants to get beat up?
You know what I find amusing, especially listening to everything been going on TV lately, is that we are extremely aggressive. We're only aggressive when attacked. Yeah. We're only responding to the way we're being treated by our public servants that work for us.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And so about my lawsuit was like 60 pages long, and about 20 pages of it was dedicated to the downtown barriers and violations. So that was all laid out. Judge Temple, in his order, which was 50 pages long, wrote 21 pages dedicated to those barriers. And he did determine, he believed that Director Cummings and other city officials acted in bad faith and deliberately withheld and didn't post those meetings so the public could not come to them to participate in expressing their feelings about those barriers, which I can tell you was overwhelmingly negative. They didn't want to hear it. They got petitions, even in the public meetings that were not this DIC meeting, there was a lot of negative expressions about doing that. So, and he basically, I did very well through those violations of them not providing records and requests for who was on the committee, not answering with adequate responses. For the first time when I said, provide me with any document that shows any meeting, Director Cummings had an email from the chair of the Downtown Improvement Committee, Mary Ann Blaisdell, that was alerting him to a meeting on a Friday in January. He never sent it to me. He had the record, but he withheld it. And so that would have told me. If I had seen that, I would have said, oh, there's a public meeting. I could have put it up on social media and
here we
said,
go. Let's go.
Everyone go. Go out there.
And use your constitutional, inalienable rights.
Exactly. So, but that didn't happen. And then between December, having a meeting, a public Planning Economic Development Committee meeting run by Alderman O'Brien, he announced in December, we're going to form a committee, and it's going to be made up of citizens, because citizens are in part the stakeholder of what goes on downtown. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Wrote to him and said, can you give me any document that explains how these citizens are going to be chosen?
And,
I'd like to serve. Let me know what's going on. By the end of January, they have a meeting, and they're talking in the meeting how they're going to pick this group, and it's stakeholders of downtown. And I said, I stood up during public comment and I said, I'd like some clarification, because I expected to hear more that this committee is picked and up and running, because you said by February this is going to be all done. So what's happening with this committee? And at that point, Alderman O'Brien explained that it's really going to be a special committee that already exists, that's been around downtown for decades, that makes decisions for the downtown, and they're the stakeholders, not the members of the public. Well, that was a completely different deal now.
Yeah.
Now, no member of the whole story changed. So I wrote a right to know and said, can you give me a document or provide me with an answer on who is this special committee that's downtown? Well, I went on the website, because of course they have all their committees listed, and I was going through trying to figure out who is the committee. And I looked all through them, and I did see Downtown Improvement Committee. At that time, I wasn't really familiar with them. But when I brought their records up, they didn't look active. Their meetings weren't posted. Their minutes weren't posted in the agenda center the way an active committee
Correct.
would.
Yeah.
So I said, well, they're not even active. So I don't think it can't be them. Yeah. Turns out it was. And they just were not posting per the law.
It was a facade.
It was. And so, but the worst part of all of this, the biggest ruse and the waste of money, was that all they had to do is answer my question. Oh, Laurie, the committee is a downtown improvement committee, and they're going to have a meeting in January. They're going to have a meeting on January 10th, and everyone's welcome to come. And it's over in room 208. But no, they hid that. And then in February, and then I continued to ask, and then I got frustrated. I wrote to the mayor and I said, I am going to file the same right to know every 7 days until somebody answers me. And the second or third filing in February, I receive a response back at 5 o'clock at night, around 5 o'clock from Director Cummings, telling me,
I'm leaving now, guys. Send.
Okay. Telling me, and now giving me an email that there had been a meeting at 7:45 that morning and that the plan was all voted on and done. Now, if that isn't being just a total stinker, and he had
You're very polite.
Oh, total.
I got another word.
Totally hiding all of it. That was so frustrating to me, especially for a woman who had done so much work in Right to Know, had just come out of this whole assessing office mess, wanted this behind me, wanted to see a city that was being more cooperative. And they totally put the shaft to the whole public on this.
So, in my little eyes here, it seems to me, public servants, if you want to be jackasses, I can say it because it's my show. I know you won't. Why don't you just say, here's the meeting, come to it, pretend to be nice to us, and then do as you darn well please anyway. What is the point of being a jackass and rude and sticking it to the people and still doing whatever you want? Because it's way more obvious, and maybe in my little unicorn world, let them, it seems to me, you want to be that way? Let them in. Just let them think they're doing something. We're going to do what we want anyway, okay? So, let them in. But no, they have to be complete and do that.
And what it tells you is how powerful they feel. They feel so powerful. They feel so above the law that they don't care. And I swear, the mayor and Steve Bolton have owned the court system in Nashua for the 10 years they've been here. And I have worked hard to decouple them, to pull that apart. And I think I've made inroads doing that. But the personal sacrifice to try and get the impartial eye and ear of a judge who really believed the city could do no wrong was very painful for me.
Yep.
It cost me a lot emotionally, physically,
financially, socially.
So it did.
But here's the other thing.
It did.
What if, so everybody, Laurie, you cost the city this much. Jocelyn, you're just costing this state thousands of dollars. Well, maybe if you did what you were asked and followed the Constitution and you answered the email, you answered the right to know, you answered that phone call, you did as you were asked, no money would be spent because you wouldn't have to go to court and they wouldn't have to defend their lousy position.
Right.
So they're causing the money. You're asking for what is your right and our right to have, and they're jamming it up.
Right. And so the best part of this order is that the judge ordered them. He said they acted deliberately in bad faith. There is no
Thank
other.
you, Judge Temple.
So we do appreciate that, and
Thank
I am
you.
so thankful for that.
Absolutely.
And that I could recover my costs. I'm a pro se litigant. I can't recover my time.
Correct.
But I can recover the filing of the suit, the summons, any subpoenas, some of the transcript costs. So I actually tallied that today for a bill of like $1,700. I sent it over to the city to try and get them to assent, and the other one, McLean. But the other thing he did is he enjoined them, which meant he put an injunction on them, which makes them have to comply with the law. If this is very rare that a judge does this. Right to Know New Hampshire said to me, the leaders up there, that it's only been done probably 3 times in 30 years, where a judge will say to a municipality, don't break the law again. If you do, you're held in contempt. You come into court, you have to justify it. There can be a steep fine, and it comes with up to a 2-year maximum prison sentence, meaning stop it now. Now, in my opinion, enjoining an injunctive relief can be a powerful tool to get a city to write policy. This city refuses to write policy on Right to Know, on how they handle stuff. They have actually come out in depositions, Bolton, Leonard, in the trial testimony, the mayor, and said, we don't think we need any written policy. Putting anything in writing isn't very valuable. That's absurd. And why the city insurance company? I don't understand why this city is insured by a big company and they're being sued left and right. Why an insurance company doesn't say, we're going to cut you right off the policy.
Yep, you're out.
You don't think you need to have any policies written on how your government is run and you're creating all this liability? But you sure
as shooting better have everything written down correctly, Miss Laurie, Miss Jocelyn. If you walk into this office, which brings me to the story of affidavits, which we'll save for another time, and the joke about affidavits, you have to dot every I, cross every T. Oh, but they can just wing it.
And before we launch into our next show about the Art Center portion of this ruling, the city invested, they put a stack of 5 attorneys against me on this right to know case. McLean Middleton was one firm hired, and they're a very powerful firm. And so was Russ Hilliard of Upton Hatfield. He's the grandfather of New Hampshire Bar Association. And they have paid
British Association Registry.
They have paid those attorneys over $600,000 in our tax dollars for legal fees to beat me at this right to know case. I think they set a record, actually, on the most expensive right-to-know lawsuit
because
in the
they
state.
Wouldn't do what the law told them to do, and that Judge Temple has now told them to do.
Now Judge Temple on this part has told them to do that. The reason those attorneys were there, I think, had to do with the Art Center. And the ruling on the Art Center is very, very interesting and worth a discussion.
Let's do that on the second half. All right, we're going to roll to a break. This is part 1. Thank you for joining me, Just Jocelyn, and Laurie Ortolano. I really hope you are understanding where we're going with this, not being demeaning or anything, but we are really getting raked over the coals, people. So thank you for joining us, and come back for part 2.